Right. Chemistry.
That was a good
Chemistry.
joke right
Damn, we
there.
didn't get it on record.
I'm glad I didn't miss that one. I'd be gutted if I did.
We'll never be able to repeat that.
Then I said no.
But welcome back to Amicable H. We've just heard Conor's top 10 picks for some of the books he read as sort of a pre-teen, early teen.
Two-teen, yeah.
So yeah, these are my top 10 picks then.
Oh, I'm interested.
So yeah, let's go. Shall I just smash through?
Yeah, just smash through in the wood right
in
now.
no order,
like
no. So yeah, we haven't really actually crossed paths too much. There was one that I had.
But you had a bonus.
I was
locked
Animal
in,
Farm. I was 50-50 with throwing that in, and then you said it. So
yeah.
Yeah, and I had 11, so we've actually hit exactly. This is wonderful.
So I'm surprised how few overlaps we get because we keep saying, "Oh, we're gonna have loads," and then
I think because we avoid. If we both said Harry Potter and we both did
neither of us cared, so it's fine. Yeah. So JK.
I'll start with my obvious one.
Your obvious one.
And this is my number one book, actually, possibly ever.
I know it. Yeah.
So this is my favorite book of all time, which is The Little Prince.
The Little Prince.
By
great book. Anton de.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. It's a French author, and it was written 100 years ago or so. No, not less than that. Sorry, it'd be like 50, 60 years ago. I think just after World War One.
Yeah, because he was actually a pilot. Yeah.
Yeah. So the book, when I describe it, it's good when people have read it so they understand the book, because describing it to someone,
that's a good example.
They're like, who cares? Like, why would you want to read it? But the book is essentially similar to that of sort of parables and Aesop's fables and Jesus' parables, except the whole book is written, the whole 200 pages of the book are kind of like a parable. And rather than where, say, Animal Farm was entirely a metaphor for events that were going on historically, this is sort of broken up into, not like skits, but as in the prince will travel. Yeah, like the prince will travel somewhere, meets a character. This character represents companionship.
Yeah.
And then meets another character. This character represents how people will perceive friendship and love, and
Is that the guy who always tips his hat?
There's that as well. Yeah, exactly. The conceited man. Yeah. He was played by Ricky Gervais
in the animated adaptation.
But yeah, so
how would you describe the plot?
So, the prince the book is written from the pilot's
the aviator,
he's a pilot he was, it starts off with him talking about being a child, and he did 2 drawings, which is the elephant
boa constrictor,
being eaten by a boa constrictor, and people look at it and they go, that's just a hat. So he drew one which was the inside, so it was like an x-ray of it, so you could see the elephant, and then they said, you should just give up and draw. And that was him trying to say, I've given up on being a child. And he says that he's a pilot, and occasionally he'll whip the drawing out to people, and they'll be like, "Oh, what a lovely hat!" And like, and he talks about, as a kid, he was frustrated that adults, because it's all about sort of adults, like big kids and little kids.
Yeah, growing up isn't fun.
So he talks about how adults only care about facts and figures and numbers
and neckties.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, if as a child I said to you, "Oh, I've just met a new friend," the child will say like, "Oh, is he lovely? Does he collect butterflies?" Etc. Whereas if an adult, you say, "I've met a new friend," at what age, how much do their parents make, and how big is their house? They want exact numbers. And they talk
according to this.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's all about sort of growing up. And as he's flying over the Sahara Desert, he crash lands on his own, and he runs as he's basically dying. He's totally dehydrated, and he meets this prince, and this isn't written as it's an odd one because it's not written exactly metaphorically or anything. It's not like a vision he has on the beach or anything like that. It's very much you sort of in the same way you read parables, you very much just take it as
this happened.
So this prince comes, and this prince is from asteroid B117 or 127 or something.
I'll check it because I knew that the other day. I knew the answer the other day, and I was like, I'll lock that in. And I obviously didn't.
And they're saying that his planet's so small that
just in.
Yeah, and he uses volcano. He uses one non-active, active volcano to cook his breakfast, like a hob.
It's so imaginative.
It's so bizarre. And he basically so it goes on, and he. And talking to the prince, it sort of zeroes in on what the prince has been doing, and the prince, I think the exact wording is he took advantage of birds migrating to travel from planet to planet.
On like strings,
and he meets people like he meets an alcoholic who I'll just use this small.
The lamplighter.
There's the lamplighter as well, but there's an alcoholic.
I thought they were the same guy.
No, there's a few different. I think in the film it is.
Is it?
I think
they
maybe not. They change characters around and stuff. Yeah. But there's an alcoholic who he sits and he's drinking. And he says, "Oh, why are you drinking?" He goes, "Well, I must forget." He goes, "What do you forget?" He goes, "I need to forget my shame." He goes, "What's your shame?"
Can't remember.
No, I'm really guilty. He's like, "Why are you guilty?" He's like, "The shame of being an alcoholic." And that it just ends, and he's like, "Oh, grown ups."
That's like silly. A Lewis Carroll type thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So that he decides then he doesn't want to grow up because he doesn't be like.
So that's like one sort of short, sort of as you said, like vignettes, like skits.
Yeah.
That sort of explains different aspects, and some a lot of them are a lot more deeper than that. But that's one that's only I think one paragraph long.
There's the astronomer counting stars to
reflect
the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
To reflect the fact only grown-ups care about facts and figures.
And it's a great depiction of like stats and stuff because he's like, I own the 3,000 stars and I count them and I make sure. And he goes, what do you do with them though?
This is so metaphorical.
It's so well written. I recommend. I think if anyone wants people who haven't read, my mum actually said this to me. Like, if you haven't read a book in a while, you know when you get into a good reading thing, you start reading books all the time, but then you get out of it and you just find yourself on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
The best way to start again is to read this. Just try to read. She would just read it in one night. But yeah, there's so much to it, and it's only like 150 pages, 200 pages.
Yeah.
The ending is absolutely gorgeous.
It is actually, yeah.
To top it all off, the pilot who wrote it, because it was an actual pilot, died in a plane accident.
He did.
So
shot down by someone who read the book to his kid. Apparently, I don't
know. Really?
How will they find
I'm going to pretend for the rest of my life that he met a prince and that happened.
You know? Yeah.
But yeah, this is my favorite book.
Well, I tell you one of my favorite moments in it, and this isn't really a spoiler. You know when he meets the prince first, and the prince says, "Oh, draw me a sheep."
Yeah.
But first he draws him a picture of the boa constrictor that everyone thinks is
yeah.
And the prince goes, "Why have you given me a picture of a boa constrictor?"
Yeah.
He's the first
Elephants are way too big.
Yeah. He's the first person who recognizes there is a boa constrictor digestive elephant.
The draw me a sheep, and he like draws him a ram, and he goes, "Oh, this ram's quite sickly," and then he just gives him a box. It's like the perfect sheep's inside. And he's like, "Wonderful."
That's postmodern, right?
It's a gorgeous book.
But the whole thing about strange minds think alike
is
the message of that whole thing. There.
And at times, at one point, the pilot lashes out, being like, "I'm going to dehydrate. I haven't drank water in ages. Like, I don't care." And the prince is like totally hurt by this. He's totally pure, and is like, "Oh my god, you sound like one of the grown-ups," and all this. But yeah, and even the fact that the prince is in love with the rose is like the most beautiful thing ever written.
Yeah, that's the companionship metaphor.
Yeah, it's sanity. It's so well written. But yeah, I'll stop there because I could talk about that. There's most of my time.
So could I, but I didn't start liking this book until I was about this age now.
Yeah,
I couldn't get into it when I was a kid.
I read it as like I'd say I probably read it as like a 9 or 10-year-old mum bought it for me.
Yeah, like my nan read it to me, and after the boa constrictor bit, I was like, it's going downhill a bit, dude. But like now, I think it's really good.
I think it's one of these books you should read to your kids.
Yeah,
and then they'll read it.
Yeah,
and they'll read it again. And again, it's still one of the best books I've ever read.
It is cracking, but I couldn't put it on mic. I can't say
you couldn't put it probably couldn't put it on yours because
I only just started. And not even just that. It's because I've only just started realizing how good it is. I'm not a teenager anymore.
What I want, the Netflix film of this was alright. The animation's gorgeous, but what I want is a Wes Anderson stop motion of this.
Oh, hello Montana. That'd be good, wouldn't it? That'd be good.
But I'll move on before I spend 28 minutes on this.
To the second one.
It's my second one. So my second is, I'm surprised you didn't have this as well. This is iconic. Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, I like
this. Is postmodern? No, it's not.
This is I think so.
Modern.
I think so. It's intertextual, so that's a big trait of modernism.
It's very. I mean, sure, J.D. Salinger didn't die. He became Thomas Pynchon. And he's postmodern, so you know.
No, he's started a show, Hollywood Stars and Celebrities. What do they know? Do they know
things? Let's find out. Yeah. Catcher in the Rye, which you've read, haven't you?
It's another one I didn't appreciate until recently, though.
Fair. I think a lot of people. It's a classic American. You have to read book now. It's become a lot of schools are teaching it.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't for a long time because of the John Lennon murder.
Oh yeah, phony.
Yeah, the guy was like, "Oh, you're phony," and he said he was holding coffee and he shot John Lennon. There's other reasons as well. The book has aspects of like, I mean, it's about a 17-year-old. I think he's 17. He gets expelled from yet another school, and he basically, rather than telling his parents right away, he realizes that they won't find out until Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
So he basically just goes out to New York and basically just gets drunk.
And it's just a few nights in the life of Holden Caulfield.
There's no adventure to this book. It's really
not really. I think there's low-key adventure.
There's low-key adventure, but I mean...
he's adventuring with Tom Hiddleston.
Oh,
but no, yeah, there's this subdued adventure.
The adventure is like... I mean, one of the adventures is that he... tries to have sex with a prostitute.
I was just about to mention that.
Virginity,
and he gets beaten up by
and he gets too sad to talk. He just starts talking. He's like, "Can't we just have a chat instead?" And she's like, "Why would I do that?"
Yeah, that's like humanizing him because
so
he seems
like
he seems like a bit of an ass.
He is an ass. He's
such a cynic.
He's a pretentious piece of shit. But like. Because I know
that's like a good what you are in the dark example.
Exactly, and I know a lot of people.
One of the best I've ever seen written down, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I know a lot of people who'll go, no, like why would you empathize with this character? He's a dick, you know? And you're like that secretly. And not in every way, but like everyone, you know, wants to get drunk and go to New York and sleep on a park bench and be a total ass, and people want to be like, oh, it sort of does the dialogue of like, oh, people like this, or you know, people in flats are always like this. Or like people who stay in hotels are always this, the phonies and you secretly do have those. Not as much as him.
No.
He's
an exaggeration of a collective mind.
And he is very much. Yeah. He's very sort of mentally ill. He's like on the verge.
Because there are loads of bits where you're like, I can't identify with this guy at all. And loads where you can too much.
Yeah, exactly.
There's like the bit where he's like, people don't notice me. People don't notice him.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's all of us.
Or like there's a great bit in this, and I use it quite a lot, which is he talks about like he's at a museum and he loved this museum as a kid. He talked about he used to go to this museum weekly, and as he's walking in, someone's graffitied "fuck" into the wall, and he's he's again what he does in this book loads is he sees one thing and he goes, everyone's like that. So he'll talk to a prostitute and she'll be a bit odd, and he'll be like, oh, it must just be all of them. It's like, no, he doesn't understand that like people are just people. So he sees this "fuck" and he's like, oh my god, like a kid could read that. Like, and he wants this to be this like innocence of child forever. Hence the title of the book.
He wants to be a protector of the kids who are jumping off the slippery slope to adulthood. Bit like the Little Prince in that tiny sense.
Like Peter growing up as well. Like,
I think the Little Prince and this both encapsulate growing up sucks.
Yeah, than Peter that's Pan just it. Yeah. So he sees this fuck and he's like trying to scrape it out, and he's like, that's the thing. And every it doesn't matter where you are, you're like. In one of the most beautiful buildings ever. It doesn't matter because in the toilet somewhere someone's graffitied "fuck" in it. Like you know, far out someone's trying to ruin everything. But yeah, it just follows him. It's very in his mind. It's very he's on a train. He talks to someone and he's bragging to them and he's getting drunk.
The mother of one of the students in his school. It was. Because she notices his blazer and she's like, do you go to that place?
Yeah.
He doesn't actually, I don't think he likes that student, but he's like.
And then he starts lying, being like, oh, he's such a great kid.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, exactly. There's loads of that. I'm trying to think of any other great sort of scenes in this book. The whole thing is really... Where
he hears the kids singing a nursery rhyme and it makes him really sad.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's powerful.
There's loads of that in this book where he, he just totally goes off, like, as in he hears one thing and that's him just totally off the rails again. Like, it's just, the ending's great. And then I think the last line, the first line's iconic. It's that because he's writing it as like a journal. Yeah, and that's explained afterwards. He's basically describing his night his couple of nights to you. What do you call it? And it starts off with like, if you want to hear about it, then fine, I'll tell you. But I'm not gonna talk. And he talks about like, I'm not gonna talk about that right now. And then
TB is one where he doesn't talk about. He's not feeling that
TB,
shit.
Is it?
TB, like that's where he gets at the end.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I could talk about that, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. I think when DB is brother, isn't it? I think he's called DB.
Oh, JB or something. Yeah, with the glove, the baseball glove line. Yeah, I can't remember his name.
I can't remember the last line. I think the last line in the book is.
I'm trying to think as well.
Don't tell anybody anything, or you'll end up missing everyone.
That's the one. Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's a good line in isolation.
Because that's the whole book is really, isn't it? It's like the second he'll see something and be like, oh, I like that, and then he just it's that, and I think everyone has that like dread of like, I'm not that young anymore, I'm not a child anymore.
Yeah.
I don't just love chocolate and love, but he really romanticizes it until like to depression basically.
He's a harmless Hamlet.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing about him. Like he's a bit of an ass, and you probably wouldn't like him if you hung up with him.
No, I wouldn't hang out with him.
He's a bit of a dick.
I'd rather.
He's not. He doesn't do anything bad in this book. He never hurts anyone. He's just like ass. He's just really rude or something. But yeah, again, I'm rambling on like I'm Mighty Man.
That's a great choice. These are world building heavy books you got so
go
far.
downhill.
These like both of these books have been like all about the world. Like Little Prince is all about the world building. So is Catcher in the Rye. So let's see if we continue in the trend with number 3.
I obviously liked it because I was the pretentious ass anyway. So like, yeah. But yeah, so number 3 is Frankenstein.
The world building novel. Oh, Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, a bit of Mary Shelley, yeah.
Oh, I do like it.
Although I've seen there are claims now that she didn't write it.
She didn't
Her
write
husband
it.
wrote it. And, you know.
Oh, Percy Bysshe Shelley.
Yeah, so because that was this book was written, as the story goes, as a bet between her and a friend.
Yeah, but I viewed as well that it all came to her in a dream. But she might have, it could have been both stories.
Yeah. So apparently there was a bet who could write a horror novel in under 300 pages or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was some bet like that, and they basically went off and wrote 2 books. And I think the other one's pretty well known as well. It's not like
no, it's not like
Jekyll and Hyde or anything. It's nothing huge, but it is like a. And then she wrote Frankenstein allegedly.
Yeah. I do like Frankenstein a lot.
I think I read this about 15. I think
I was about the same age. It is a bit like the reason it's not on mine because it could beat, but it is a bit flowery.
Yeah, it is definitely. It's very of the time because I mildly studied it as well. Not like
studied it twice, kind of thing.
Oh really? I never studied it as an actual book, but we did it as like.
I'm gonna have a quick waz. Sorry, Paul. Let's pretend I'm still here and just record the word amazing a few times. And it'll be like he's really there.
Oh, or I'll stop for a second. This just in, Conor Peace.
That's good world building there.
Yeah.
Bit of a backstory for the characters. We're not generic.
We're not animatronic or something. I don't know. That wasn't even a word. But that's okay.
So back to your thoughts on Frankenstein.
Yeah, so I read this about 15, and as you said, it's very we sort of studied it in school and they said this as well, it's very like Gothic was very like, oh, how good are you as an author? And that is very clear in this, like not everything's symbolism and everything's very like it's not just dark outside. It's like dreary month of obviously I'm not an author, so I'm sorry.
What do you think the plot of this one is?
Well, what do I think the plot is? So the plot, I
think it's about Kenneth Branagh.
So Frankenstein, who isn't the monster.
He's not. He's Victor Frankenstein.
We'll get into that.
I hate that discrepancy there when people go Frankenstein, they mean the monster.
Oh, no, there's a great. I'll go into that in a second. Frankenstein is a mad scientist who basically has been collecting dead body parts to create a creature, some kind of human being.
Yeah, to bring human life back. Yeah, because his mother dies of scarlet fever, and that's what triggers the yearning.
So after certain aspects happen, you get sort of there's pages of him talking about how he's been doing it and him going off the rails a bit. He creates this monster. Well, at first it's a human, but the human's very and very like slow and very. So he does create life, but it's a very damaged and very.
And he regrets it straight away.
And he's like, "What have I done?" And then this monster gets out because he's very strong. He's not like superhuman strong, but he's like a strong man.
He's stronger than him for sure. Yeah.
A shot would kill, like a bullet would kill him still.
Yeah.
So it's not like a ludicrous horror story. If you can believe that I can bring back a 7-foot man, then yes, this thing's totally believable, basically. And then the monster sort of goes on a sort of rampage of sorts, and it's like meets a child and tries to understand itself. Meanwhile, Victor Frankenstein's trying to get it, and then there's a very powerful ending, but I won't spoil it.
There is a powerful ending.
But I was going to say there's a great story, if you will, which is there's a great description of it, which is like knowledge is knowing that Frankenstein isn't the monster, but wisdom is knowing that Frankenstein was the monster.
Yes. All along. Oh, that's amazing. Did they say that in?
No, I think it's just one of these things that's went around.
Now I tell you what is a good. You know what's good about that we both love? Well illustrated characters that could both be seen in a way as villainous.
Yeah.
It's not black and white morality.
Because the monster is
very grey morality.
The monster isn't just a monster. It's on the purge. The monster is just some kind of, it's like an animal.
Yeah, like you'd react the same way if you were this underdeveloped form of.
In the same when you see those clips of like a wild dog or something like that getting startled, the attacks, like doesn't know what it's doing.
It's exactly like that, yeah.
But yeah, I won't talk too much about this one. But it's a classic.
Because I quite like it as well. We could have like hour and a half.
I think we could even do like a horror movies at some point.
Oh yes.
Speaking of which, my next one My number 4 is another horror classic.
Go on.
Dracula.
Dracula,
yeah.
Oh, I do like this too.
So a bit of Bram Stoker for us all. Who Irish, Charlotte?
He is Irish, yeah.
So this is the original vampire. There was sort of depictions of...
Carmilla was first, but...
Oh, really?
He popularised it, though.
Oh, really? I didn't know this. So I'd heard that, like, things like the character was a bit like Vlad the Impaler.
Oh,
yeah,
a real
man.
Yeah.
Who supposedly was responsible for 80,000 people's deaths or something. Most of them by stakes and stuff. Yeah.
That's right. I knew about Vlad the Impaler. I've seen pictures of him.
And there was rumours that he liked to suck blood, and then there's these stories sort of came along. So it's not a case of he invented that. I think vampires kind of already existed somewhere of superhumans who could suck blood or whatever.
He's still without a doubt the most famous vampire.
I didn't know this. What was the book you said?
Carmilla.
So that's...
Yeah, I think it's a lesbian vampire story.
Oh, really?
And it's before Bram Stoker.
I know that Bram Stoker... What actually surprised me about reading this is that loads of the tropes are still used. As in, I assumed that the first, Dracula was written... I'll give a quick plot. The plot's odd. It's written mainly as sort of journals between 2 or 3 people.
That's right.
I think John or Joseph.
John Harker. Yeah.
John Harker, and then I think it's his sister. Is the other one?
Mina. Oh no, his wife.
It's his wife, is it?
Mina Harker, yeah.
And there's things going on there.
She is, yeah.
And it's sort of 2 or 3 subplots that all come together, all affected by this very odd sort of characteristic man who then turns out to be a monster,
I think my one quibble with it is they make it very obvious that he will be. And not just because he used to.
I don't know if it's because we know as well.
I don't know though, because he lives in a spooky castle off the hill.
He disappears.
He gets excited when he sees the sight of blood. Yeah. And he hasn't got a reflection.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna say though. It's interesting to me that
be careful how you cut yourself when he's cutting himself shaving. Hey.
It's interesting to me that so many, because a lot of these books it'll be like, oh, they've invented this trope, and then people just lightly take, all the Disney princess stories, they just take a rough, there was someone called Cinderella, but they kind of ignore half the plot. Whereas for most of this, he kind of very much nails off all of the vampire tropes. So no reflection, can't cross stricken water, garlic, stakes in the heart, mild sort of being able to climb, sort of turning into a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does sort of cover that, which I thought it was interesting. Obviously.
That is cool. I do like most of this book, to be fair.
It's a good
it's
book.
Not that flowery either, as far as
it's quite horror, isn't it? It's quite, as in, it's how I imagine quite a lot of Stephen King's written as well.
Probably.
There's a monster,
to be fair.
I've no Stephen King actually. Just thinking that in the list.
I've never read a full. Really? Oh, I read The Body.
Okay.
That could have been on mine, I suppose. But
he's written 30 or 40 books or something, and they're pretty all good. But anyway, yeah. So I won't again talk too much because I'm already wasting so much time. But that's okay. But that's terrible.
And that's terrible. This and this.
But so Dracula. So my next one.
Dracula, Bram Stoker. What number are we on?
I knocked that out there. I am on number 5.
Number 5. Oh, we're halfway there.
I mentioned this one. Oh.
Sorry.
I mentioned this one.
Carry on.
Oh God.
Carry on. Sorry.
That's your new job.
I'm sorry. Oh my God. Just say
my next one.
Right, yeah,
my next one.
Go on.
Is another one I actually did read till I was older, but everyone's seen the Disney film and stuff. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
Oh yeah, my mother suggested, because I phoned up my parents what books did I used to read, and she was like, "Was that one for you reading?" I was like, a bit, but not enough. So yeah, I'm glad you did mention this.
Because I'm a big fan of Lewis Carroll in general. Because Lewis Carroll, I mean, I'm not a fan of the ideas anyway, but a paedophile, which I don't think there's enough evidence to suggest.
No, ever heard that stupid theory though? It's like, he raped a girl and told her to imagine a fantasy world. So
exactly. A lot of it's just pandering and whatnot. But there is some. I mean, yes. So this is obviously semi-based. I don't think I need to do the plot really. A girl else
falls down a rabbit hole, and then things get weird.
And the world in Disney film, it's a sort of, it's just random. It's just like pretty colors, and whereas in the book, it's more of depictions of things in his life and whatnot. Because he had, for example, he was said to have suffered from a condition where things are out of proportion.
Did he? I didn't know that.
And it makes things that are sitting right in front of you look tiny.
Depth perception.
Yeah. So, what do you call it? I don't know if it's I think it's a mental illness rather than a biological one. If you know what I mean.
I've never heard about that.
I
didn't know that about him anyway.
It's named after him. To be fair, I'm pretty sure the condition's named after.
Jiminy Crickets, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so obviously the trope in this the plot in this where she gets bigger and smaller is based on real thing, and there's math stuff in this as well that's based off
grins without numbers,
and
exactly. Apples without numbers, and numbers without apples. Yeah,
so
that's the one I know.
A lot of it had a lot of historical context that's kind of lost now, partly because we're not in that time, and partly because Lewis Carroll's a mental man. He's a bizarre.
He's gotta be, hasn't he? He's gotta be. He had to be, rather.
He's a really interesting math paradox after him about three barbers. It's not the one people always think it's the one where it cuts everyone's hair. I
haven't heard that.
It's like a barber who cuts everyone's hair. Who cuts his hair?
Fridge logic, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's a really intricate, like, if this guy only does beards and he only comes in Tuesdays and Thursdays, and this person, like, who's gonna do who's? It's really, really interesting, like, to prove. But he just did it as a vocal exercise. I think it doesn't make sense. It makes sense logically, but it doesn't make sense. But I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, yes, this is it's a classic, really, isn't it?
It is a classic, yeah.
What do you call it? What else about it? It doesn't have a lot to. What's the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't say it's a kid's book really anymore. There's shorter versions of it.
Yeah, like Little Ladybird.
Yeah, exactly. There'll be like 50 pages and stuff, and they're definitely better to read. I think a lot of it's a bit too bizarre.
That's the way. Like, I mean, I can spoil the ending again. She's dreaming all along.
Yeah.
And I think I'd have much preferred it if she wasn't. I don't care.
Well, isn't there a nod?
There's loads. There's like dream logic all the way through, but I'd still rather it just be.
No, but I mean, isn't there a nod that she sees a rabbit at the end?
Oh, does she? Well, if that's what
I don't think that's in the Disney one, but I think it's in one of the not Tim Burton one.
No,
the one with the girl from Napoleon Dynamite, who you've told me the name of.
Tina Majorino.
I think there's a little nod that maybe it wasn't in that one.
In that one, but in the book itself,
I could be talking crap.
You're probably right, because it doesn't have the same beginning in that one either.
No, so. That's the party, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, cherry ripe. Anyway.
But yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bizarre book, and he's a bizarre man.
He is.
That's why I suppose it's iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's remembered for that. It's a good example of, and this is why I don't like the end. I feel it takes away from it. It's a really good example of a thinly veiled dystopia. Wonderland is
kind of like paranoid or something, like something. Yeah. Again, this man was a bit.
It's like pretty colours, but nobody is nice in Wonderland. Yeah. However nice it looks, everyone's out to get you. Yeah. They're either out to get you or they just don't care.
Or you don't know what's safe anymore because everything's on its edge. Yeah, and what's like upside down. But and also the other weird thing about reading the book, because it's actually two books.
Mm-hmm.
It's Alice in Wonderland
Through the Looking Glass,
but the films just pick from both.
Because Tweedledum and Tweedledee
are in Through the Looking Glass. And that's what really bothers me about Tim Burton made Alice in Wonderland film, which was a Through the Looking Glass film, because it was like she returns, and now he's releasing a sequel called Through the Looking Glass.
He didn't do the Through the Looking Glass film, though. He didn't.
Did he not?
No, it's a sequel, but he wasn't.
Really?
Direct it.
Okay, but it's
still
like cash grabs. Doesn't make any sense.
Still.
But yeah, again, I don't have too much to say on that.
So Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll.
Ew, cute boy, and read about his maths and stuff. That's quite cool. My next one isn't really a teen book. I don't know.
What number are we on?
6.
6. Oh,
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we are 6 because I sang "Living on a Prayer" because we were halfway there.
Fair.
One, so yeah.
So
that is right.
6. I don't know if it is a kid's book, but it's a good book for like you're an adult, so good adult reading,
Good adult reading.
So it's The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Very nice. Very nice.
Again, I don't really know. It's another book.
Very nice.
You can tell from my list I was one of these kids who was like, I'm gonna read all the classics. I read the Bible when I was like 12.
Did you actually?
Like start to finish, Genesis.
Rev.
Like, do you know what I mean? Literally page 1, chapter 1, all the way.
Creepy.
It was really. I look back and I was like, that was weird. But yeah,
he's my favourite character.
Oh, really?
Anyway.
Anyway, but
so
picture Dorian Gray. So picture Dorian Gray is the only novel Oscar Wilde wrote. He wrote a few plays.
His short stories
and his plays, his poetry and stuff. But I think this is the only actual novel.
Probably right.
But it's about a man called Dorian Gray who has a portrait painted of him. And this man's very charismatic. And there's loads of great quotes. Oscar Wilde's probably one of the most quoted human beings alive.
Yeah. Which is good because you know the only thing better than being talked about
is not being talked about.
I misquoted that, but yeah.
They all misquoted anyway.
Yeah.
But like, there's a great segment where this artist is doing a portrait of Dorian Gray, and Dorian Gray's meant to be this gorgeous young man, like a really fair face. And he's saying that any artist who puts any emotion into it, it isn't a portrait of the person; it's a portrait of the artist themselves.
Oh,
like
cool.
If I paint you, but I'm not just painting you. I'm really thinking about
making the effort,
how I depict you. Should say something about me.
That's cool. That's a cool.
So there's loads of his and you can actually. It's funny reading his books and reading his poetry because you literally find like fridge magnets in it, as in because you see these and people have got these posters and stuff with these quotes on it. You always see. There's that. It's weird to see
that's
it,
cool.
Because you see it isolated
in its base form.
Yeah.
First,
what do you call it? But so then it follows. He has this portrait. He's sort of. It's a little bit fantasy, but the book's more about Dorian Gray sort of falling to madness because the sort of plot is the portrait ages, but he does not.
He doesn't.
So he meets this artist 30 years later, and he doesn't look a day older. But and he should be. But the painting of him is going grey and he's starting to get wrinkled, and the way he lives his life because he mistreats someone horribly kind of affects the painting. And there's twinges of like homosexuality, which is clearly influenced by Oscar Wilde's issues with it. And but yeah, it's a gorgeous book. It's a really, really lovely book, and it's not that long.
No, it's not.
It's only a few hundred pages. There's the film came out as well. I don't know how I think it went down as Just Alright.
Just Alright. I can't remember who's in it.
I can't remember. I know they nailed Dorian Gray. I thought. I can't remember who he is, but
I thought it was Jamie Dornan, but I can't be.
It's not Jamie Dornan, is it?
No, maybe it sounds like Dorian, and I'm being.
No,
I can't be. He looks too young.
But yeah, anyway, picture Dorian Gray.
Picture of Dorian Gray. Check it out, folks.
So this is my number.
Bit wild that one.
7.
Number 7. Yeah, that is right. That is right. Because 5 was Alice. This 6 was Dorian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is 7.
Okay. Here we go. So I need to actually read it. Wouldn't it? Number 7 is Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies, eh?
Never
read it.
I know they're releasing I think an all-female version.
Are they? What, a film or a...
Yeah, a film, which I don't know. I'm a little
bit... Is it cross-cast or is it gender flip? So are they playing them as if they were boys or are they playing them as if they were women?
Oh, is that what that means? Is it? Wait, what do you mean? It's crosscast, so is that where we get girls to play men?
Yeah, and gender flip is when they change the character, right?
It's like Ghostbusters and all that.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't like to be too judgmental because sometimes some of this stuff is actually quite interesting, but I feel like it doesn't need to be done.
No, to be honest. There are only 2 adaptations of the straightforward ones,
and they've been ages ago. It doesn't really work in the film, I don't think either. I think it works a lot better as a book. Anyway, I feel like there probably could be a good film, but I think it's one of these ones that they've sort of struggled to. But anyway, so the plot is roughly that a group, and I should point out this is more of a boys' book. I don't think girls tend to. I know older, yes, but as kids, no.
Oh no, that's fair.
So a group of school boys get basically lost. Not lost. They what do you call it? They end up on an island after a crash. I'm trying to remember if it was a plane crash. I think it was.
Got to have been.
Yeah. What do you call it? Because the problem is you've seen all these flipping parodies of it and stuff. You
and then they roll,
the original.
Yeah, they roll in planes.
I think it's a plane crash. But anyway, so they're left alone. There's these kids. They're all about 14 to 15, I think. It's a group of about 30 of them. And it mainly follows 3 sort of characters, which are Piggy, who's the sort of voice of reason. And he tries to keep us ahead. You've got, is it Kevin or
is that the other guy's name?
I think it's something like that. But he's the sort of he's a bit more like he's the real ringleader.
Yeah.
But he's a bit of he kind of goes off the rails a bit, and then there's
that's a big part
Jack as well. He's another one.
Jacking Tom.
So Piggy sort of I can't remember his name, so I won't say his name. I thought it was Kevin, but I'm probably wrong. So they take over originally, and they're like, here are the things we need to survive. We need a fire. We'll have two fires, a signal fire, and we'll have a normal fire for cooking and stuff. And they talk about you shouldn't go certain in the jungle because there's like stuff like Komodo dragon. I think it's Komodo dragons. But there's animals in there. Like you people are going to be the people who sort water. You people sort food, and they create this sort of society. And it's about how the society totally falls apart because they're like the book's basically trying to depict that like society doesn't work when you have the sort of
when you don't have the resources, the media.
So it's a sort of statement on what people think of like Trump and Putin and stuff like they are just like schoolboys.
Valley residents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're not really leaders. They're too busy.
That's a cool.
Do you know what I mean? It's very
modern day parallel right there. Donald Trump loves this podcast and he doesn't know.
Damn it. But maybe Bernie Sanders will like it now or something.
He's already a big
He's already emailing us all the time.
He is.
Get it? Like,
stop emailing us, mate.
So I wouldn't say too much about the book. It's only 150 pages or something. It's pretty short.
There's the film coming out will be the third film adaptation.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there might be.
Or the fourth if you count Over the Hedge as a Lord of the Flies adaptation.
Of course. Yeah.
there's the two leaders, the one rational one, the one irritable one. They need to get food. It's the same stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my number 8.
That is right. Yeah, because that was 7.
I'm off all this. So my number 8 is Metamorphosis, which kind of
Kafka.
Shouldn't be on my list because I read it as a teen and I definitely didn't get it. I read it as
looking back, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's a great book. I'm a wee bit like, I should put this here. But it's a really, really great book. But it's too much about trying to understand Kafka is a different thing.
That's exactly right. So you could actually summarize the plot with the opening line or a variation on the opening line.
I'm trying to remember the opening line.
It's like Gregor Samsa woke one morning and realized he turned into a beetle.
It's like something like that. So Kafka is meant to be very like matter of fact, but yet he is this like dystopic paranoid world.
That is a crapsack world. That is.
It's really so like he gets turned into this massive beetle, and then he looks at and he's like, oh shit, how am I gonna get to work? And he looks at the window, it's raining. He's like, oh, I'm feeling quite miserable now. It's like, what? Like,
you were a beetle.
Exactly.
First.
Like,
that
it's
was the
really,
worst thing,
really weird. And like, again, when I read, I would have just been like, ha, and read, and then like now that I'm sort of looking back now and sort of have a better understanding, I'm like, oh, like,
yeah, he uses such an unrelatable thing to be really depressing.
Yeah. And
there's not many books that can do that.
He's actually a real. So I think everyone knows the story of Metamorphosis. It's a guy wakes up.
Realizes he's turned into a beetle overnight.
Yeah, and it's not like a curse or anything. It's just like this just happened.
No,
and it's just about how he slowly becomes more and more animalistic, and how he can't relate to anyone anymore.
God, it's depressing.
It's so depressing, yeah.
Like, because there's a trope called Kafka comedy, which is like laughing at misfortune, but like, I think the Kafka-ness of this outweighs the comedy by a
lot of like, I mean, they'd say like people misuse Kafka so much as well. It's like Kafka-esque has become like such an easy word to use.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like I'm in a Kafka right
He has another one which really depicts him, which is I think it's called The Emperor's Messenger or something.
Ooh.
And it's only like a page long. It's about an emperor who has a story. He's the most important man in the world. And he's like a great emperor and he rules the world. And he tells a messenger, a meaning for you, and it's not like it doesn't say to a person, it says you, and it's all directed at you reading this. But the messenger goes on a journey to find you, and no one else says. He just whispers it, and then he dies. Like messenger just dies. So it's his last word.
So you never know what it means.
And the messenger runs, but no matter how far he runs, there'll always be too many towns, too many roads, too many rides. Like he'll never get to you.
It's just a shaggy dog story.
Yeah, he'll never get to you. And like you'll never know, and that's it. That's just the whole story.
And that's what Metamorphosis is.
Yeah, exactly. So that the whole
things never work out.
Things don't really work out, but they're very real world.
And people stop caring as well. Yeah, because that does happen to him.
It's like kind of grounded, but not. It could happen, but not really ever.
Apart from the fact that someone turns into a beetle, the rest of the story is clearly like it's not like people fly in.
Like something bizarre happens, but the sort of story is more about I'm gonna lose my job now. Like that's his problem.
That's his big issue.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's again. I feel a bit cheeky putting it on my list.
Cheeky picks here. Cheeky picks.
What else do I have to say about it? Yeah, it's a great. I don't think there's any film adaptation.
Don't think
I
so.
think there might be a couple. There's plays and stuff.
There's plays. There's definitely plays. Yeah.
There's no iconic like film. There's no big film.
No.
George Clooney starring as a Beatle.
As Greg was
Rob Schneider as the Beatle.
Rob Schneider.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say about Franz Kafka. Yeah, so again, I feel a bit weird putting it on my list because I was like, I didn't get it as a kid.
But you do now. But you started reading.
I'll probably in 10 years be like, no, I didn't. I think it's one of those. The other thing, Kafka is really interesting. He wasn't appreciated at this time.
No.
So he
vindicated by history, yeah.
So he tried to burn all of his books, and his friend said to him,
I didn't know that business.
His friend said to him, don't burn his books. Lord
mate.
Henry or something he was called, something like
Right.
that. And he was like, so basically he was like, I don't want, and he like, no, he basically thought, well, if I'm on something, if I'm, the future of history, the future of like novels and the future of literature, then why people aren't noticing? So therefore, if no one can recognize that I'm a genius, therefore I'm full of shit. And I should just stop. And I don't want anyone to ever understand that. Well, because he was so honest in his intentions that he was like, I could never have that exist. Then I want rid of it. And his friend basically didn't burn. He saved loads of copies and found loads of his work. And yeah, now he's one of the seen as possibly one of the most influential writers of all time. Really bizarre. But yeah.
Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Check it out. Check it out.
So this is my number 9.
Number 9 now.
Kind of wasn't going to put it in, but I've decided to put it in after looking at my other ones. So I'm like,
let's hear this.
So because you've already said Animal Farm, but I am going to stick in 1984.
1984. All right.
Yeah, it's a great. So it's another George Orwell novel. Again, George Orwell is an absolute genius. Everything he's touched, he's just good at.
So the plot of this one.
The plot follows a man whose name I don't remember.
Winston Smith.
Winston Smith, yeah. It's one of those ones like, oh, you know it when you hear it. And he is in this dystopic world, because the book was written in 1948.
Yeah, he's
post-war, and you've got the Soviets, so it's big influence by that. How the Cold War was and so on. And how Germany was divided.
God, that war sure was cold.
Oh,
it was a bit nippy right there.
But how George Orwell, what's the word for it? How he depicted how the future would be. So he took 48, reversed it in 1984, and it's a very dystopic world of which it's getting closer and closer to modern day. Really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, everything's monitored.
Big Brother's watching. There's the thought police that if you ever think, they're nicknamed that, but basically if you ever say something that could possibly be depicted as against the government, then you just disappear overnight.
I tell you what, that's what I actually thought. You have to swipe into lectures now. I was like, this is like 1984.
Oh yeah, and all that stuff freaks me out. Where like, if you take money out of an account, they know where you are.
Yeah.
Like the second you pay for
Big Brother is actually watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the NSA stuff. This book's getting more and more. Like genuinely, the whistleblowing stuff only shows more and more.
That's
how
true.
Close we are to this.
It's not going to be fiction in it.
It doesn't, and it's not really. There's no real plot in, except he's free, and he's a person surviving this dystopia. He hasn't been sort of.
This is another. It has to be said, relentlessly depressing one.
Yeah.
More real world,
especially. I won't spoil it, but
the ending
is very much oh right then, all right.
I mean, can't sympathise with this guy anymore.
Yeah. So he's just basically it's just him walking around. It's more they use a plot more to describe the world rather than building a world and having a plot.
Yeah, you've got a lot of world building ones in here.
Yeah, because that's really what the point is, isn't it? It's just basically describing, and the whole point is like 2 + 2 = 5 is, that if they tell you it, even if it's wrong in your head, doesn't matter. What you're told is right, and that's it. Like there's no. Yes, we all know 2 + 2 = 4, but if I said it's 5, it's 5. Like, and the problem is, the only downside of this book is it's become so cliche
to say all the thought police.
Yeah,
the thought police
like,
are again.
Awful,
and Big Brother is watching it. Who's got all that? That's everywhere now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's become very easy
to reference.
Like, like dystopia. Oh yeah, and every time anyone gets elected, it's like, oh man, the evil. But yeah, it's a classic book, really. Another one you can read now.
Yeah, and appreciate a lot.
Yeah. Again, I read it younger because I was like, oh, classics, gonna read them all. And then that totally over my head, really. Not totally.
Well, not this one though.
This one was alright, but again, it's like you can read it on the farm, but farm animals, and then you can read it as, oh, it's an
The Russian
allegory.
Revolution, yeah.
And then you read it again and be like, hit with loads of historical context, being like, you could identify
Pinpoint
each
certain
individual,
what
and
represents
base
what.
that, yeah. But yeah, so that's that. So 1984.
That is very much that. 1984 by George Orwell. We've
Uh,
both mentioned him. Good lad is George.
so this is
He loves this podcast too.
Oh, this is my last one, is it?
This is your number 10,
This is my number 10.
We've been smashing through these, haven't we?
So this is a series.
It's a series, but as one like I did with Unfortunate
But I'm actually just going to talk about the first one.
The first one?
Because it's got its own film. I think it actually might have another film coming out.
Oh.
And it's if you're gonna read it, you're gonna read this, you know. So it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh!
Have you read this?
I do like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Have you read them all, or have you just read the first one?
First one, yeah, just the first one.
So it's a it's 5 books of a trilogy of 4. There's 5 books in the trilogy of 4. But again, I'll just zero on the first one. So it follows Arthur Dent, who is a individual from Earth who has a very odd friend called Ford.
Ford Prefect, yeah.
And he's sort of this bizarre man who he told these things about how he actually came from another planet and whatnot. He's like, oh, right, okay. And basically Arthur wakes up and he's really annoyed because the bulldozers are coming to knock his house over.
To destroy his house, yeah.
And he's going, oh, Jesus. And he's just like, I'll just lie in front of these bulldozers, because they're basically trying to build this huge motorway. And they're saying, you're the only person, so they're like, screw you, we're just going to run over your house, we don't care. And they're saying things to him like, oh, you should have known. Like, the plans have been in City Hall for years now, for months. And he's like, yeah, they were in the basement, there was no stairs down, I actually fell down when I was getting down to it in the dark. Like, at this time, you know what I mean, you didn't actually warn me, and whatnot. And then his house gets bulldozed. Ford takes him and goes, you come with me. Doesn't matter anyway, because we've only got 25 minutes until the war ends. And then they go to a pub and he orders a few pints, and Ford's being like, he orders 2 beers for him and Arthur.
That's right.
And then he gives 20
endless, yeah.
And then the barman's going like, why give me 20? Like, let's keep change. And he's like, why would I? He's like, oh, I mean, you have to spend now. You've only got 20 minutes to live.
Yeah.
And then he gives him another 20. Oh, just keep it. And the guy's like, you're mental. And then basically the sort of twist, because this is Douglas Adams' bizarre sense of humor, is that these aliens have come to destroy Earth. And they're saying that they're building a supersonic highway.
That's right.
Through the galaxy.
But don't panic.
Yeah, don't panic. And they're saying, but sure, the plans have been in your nearest nebula for years. And they're like, well, we didn't
go down there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can't get there. They're like, oh well. And they just blow up the Earth. And basically, they're the only 2 people to survive. And it's about their insane adventures.
From that point forth.
And there's also there's the don't panic. There's the you should only bring a towel. A towel is the most useful thing.
Oh yeah,
it's a blanket. It can cool you down. To dry things. What do you call it? And then so it's all about like Douglas Adams. His whole sense of humor, because it's very different to other fantasy novels, where in Star Wars and so on, it's like here's a world and here's your hero. This is more like him trying to make points about things. He's like very math stuff and some like philosophy stuff. And actually, when we were trying to make this list, this book made me go, flip, I actually like this kind of pushed me more towards my degree.
Towards maths and physics.
Than I thought.
God, of all things to do that, Douglas Adams was the one.
Yeah, no, there's really bizarre, and then there's actually, because there's really bizarre things happen, the probabilities of things, like a whale falls from the Earth.
I remember.
And it's understand. He's like, oh, what am I? I'll call myself a whale. That sounds quite
that's
good.
right. Yeah. Oh,
and it falls, it smashes into the planet, and then that causes the crack that they then use. But then he explains this within the world, because there's the engine that they use, uses sort of, I think it's dark matter or something they say, but basically it's powered on its probability of events happening, and because them doing that has to lead to something else happening equally improbable. Like really, really couldn't happen, and therefore they cause things to happen. Like a whale falling to a planet and naming itself.
I tell you what, I know it's a comedy. There is a subtly depressing the dolphins.
Yeah,
they were trying to warn
humans are the third smartest animal.
That's right, and the dolphins were trying to warn humans of the world ending, but because of the language barrier, the humans never found out.
And the last words to say is
so long and thanks for all the fish. That is low-key depressing. It's funny, but that's quite sad in a way, when you think they couldn't tell us.
Even the 42.
Life, the universe,
mice, built this and takes 7 billion years for this to answer. They ask what is the ultimate question, what is what do you call it? Yeah, what is the answer to the ultimate question? And they go, oh, okay. And it takes billions of years, generations and generations, and it finally unveils and it's just 42.
That's
And
another
he
Shaggy
goes,
Dog story.
what? But what does that mean? He's like, well, it's another question that'll take about a few billion years to answer. And they're like, oh,
Oh, why?
So, I think the answer, I won't spoil too much. I think the answer is then, what, 6 times 7?
Something like
that.
that.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, so it's a bit, and also Earth was a computer.
That's right.
Earth was the computer to answer the question, and
It's
moments before, like a day before it was meant to answer, it gets blown up.
See that's
really
again slightly depressing.
But that's the
I
point
love
of
the way
book. The books are meant to
be.
be. Because he even did, he's dead now sadly, but he did.
He is, yeah.
He did even philosophy talks and stuff.
Did he actually? I didn't know.
He has this great quote where he talks about if you want to work out how a dog works or how a poodle works, the first thing, like, you have to take it apart and look at it, and the first thing you have is a dog that doesn't work anymore. It's like he's a bizarre man. He's a very bizarre man.
He's a nutty one, he is, isn't he?
But really recommend the 5 books. R.I.P.
Owen Colfer finished his books off as well, didn't he? He wrote a sequel.
Yeah, I think so. I think that
didn't do as well.
5th book. I think that's just like another series.
Yeah, I think so.
Also, Martin Freeman played him in the film.
The film's not bad. The film's quite good.
It's quite good. It's
Zoe
not
Deschanel's in it. It's
got the robot. Oh my god, the paranoid android, which is what the Radiohead song's named after.
The Alan Rickman's voice.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah, and Warwick Davis is inside it.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. I'm trying
to
know, like, what's the point? Yeah, Marvin, the depressed robot. Why would I bother?
That's brilliant, mind it.
But yeah, it's a really good book. One of my favourites. Actually, I'm going to read all 5 of them pretty soon again.
So that was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Guardians of the Galaxy. Check it out
by Douglas Adams, you mean?
By Douglas Adams. What did I say?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Did I actually fucking say that? Oh my god, well, read that book over a pan-galactic goggle blaster.
Oh, also, before I quit, Google have just brought out a hearing device to hear languages, like the babblefish. Like, the fish that you hear in different languages.
A few years earlier, and Earth would never have got destroyed.
Yeah, exactly.
The dolphins could have told us.
Exactly.
But anyway. For goodness sake.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for.
That's all we've got time for tonight on Amicable H. Good my. And thanks for all the fish.